Hey guys, back with another video. Different kind of video. Sometimes I talk about movies and TV on the channel, not too often, but I felt compelled to make a video talking about a TV show because I've been binge watching this show, and this is already up there with my favorite TV shows. Honestly, it's probably like in the third spot, with like Breaking Bad being at number two and The Wire being at number one. And the show is called Black Mirror, and it's fairly popular right now because Netflix actually just released season 3 of this show, and it was originally in the UK. It aired in the UK, and I think it aired back in 2011, and it was fairly popular there, and it started to get a little more popular in the US, in North America, and other countries. And I guess it was popular enough that Netflix decided to get in touch with the creator and commission 2 seasons of like 6 episodes each. The interesting thing is that season 1 and 2, the UK series, only have 3 episodes each, and then there's like a Christmas special. And the production on the Netflix series is interesting because some episodes are kind of like American and take place in the US with American actors, and then some take place in England with British actors, which is kind of interesting. So I've binge watched every episode of this show ever since I heard about season 3, and this show is fucking incredible. And I want people to know about this show, and the title of this video is going to be a TV show you should be watching, Black Mirror. And a lot of people are going to be able to watch this because it's on Netflix, and Netflix is so popular now that it's harder to find people that don't have it, honestly, especially in the US. And on the US, every episode of the series is on there, even the UK one, so you can start with season 1 and go from there. I think all of them are up in the UK as well, for some of my UK viewers, and some of my viewers that are in the UK have probably already seen the show and know about its head writer and creator, which I'm going to talk about in a bit here. But unfortunately, the Canadian Netflix does not have seasons 1 and 2 of this show. They only have the White Christmas episode and then the new season, which is really shitty. And it's so unfortunate, and it's so typical too, because Canadian Netflix is utter garbage compared to the US one, and it has been for years, and they still don't do much about it. Like, the selection is still terrible. So if you're Canadian, you're going to have to find other means to find the other episodes, which I would highly recommend. Now, talking about the series a bit, this is an anthology series, so every episode has new characters, a new setting, and a new story. And the main theme of this show is technology and the dark side of technology, and kind of how we interact with technology. Some episodes take place in the current day, and then some episodes are in the far future. And each episode kind of stakes like this really interesting sci-fi concept and goes nuts with it. Now, being an anthology series, some episodes are better than others, but a lot of people's opinions are different. Somebody might have a certain episode as their favorite, where me, for instance, would find it my least favorite. I've seen quite a few of like the more human drama type episodes, like based on relationships. These are the kind of episodes. Like, there's one episode that has to do with this kind of thing that I fucking loved. But then there's a few other episodes that some people think are the best that I think are some of the weaker ones. It runs the gamut. There's some really like emotional episodes here that are very like extremely well done and well written. And then there's some really fucked up, bleak episodes. This show in general is extremely dark. Probably the darkest show I've ever seen. And it's the kind of show that some people will not be able to binge watch. It's a very depressing show, and it's really thought provoking in a lot of ways too. It's probably the most thought provoking show I've ever seen. And some people are just going to find it to be too much. I was talking about the show on Twitter, and I was saying that it's relentlessly brutal, and it is. Almost every episode has a brutality to it, and not in like a violent way. And the show is mature, but not in that typical way a lot of people kind of think that a show is mature if it's violent and gory and things like that. But no, this is more mature in the themes it tackles. It's got very adult themes, and it's brutal in other ways that I don't really want to spoil. I can give you like a brief. I'm going to give like a brief idea of some of the episodes, but obviously I'm not going to spoil how they go from like the beginning. But I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about the creator of this show. His name's Charlie Brooker, and I haven't heard of this guy before watching the show. And he has written or at least co-written almost every episode of the series, and it's his series. And I guess he's pretty well known in the UK, and he started off as like a comedy writer. I think he helped write for the show called Peep Show in the UK, which is pretty popular. It makes me want to actually go and watch that. I've heard that show is really funny. But this, it still has a dark comic edge to it. There's a lot of black humor to some of these episodes. So you can definitely get a feel for his comedy writing in some of these episodes, but it does surprise me like how amazing he is at sci-fi writing. And sci-fi is kind of a tricky thing, and this is a sci-fi show. Because a lot of like these sci-fi concepts have been done before. If you've read a lot of books, if you've watched a lot of movies, they've a lot of this stuff you've kind of seen before. But the way he kind of builds upon these ideas and really gets into like the bleak side of these ideas, and the bleak part of technology and how we interact with it, it's very impressive. Like. And even some of the weaker episodes are impressive because of the themes that it brings to the table, and how thought-provoking some of them are. Now, the acting in the show, of course, is incredible too. Some scenes in like the early UK episodes, I was kind of blown away by some of the acting on display. A lot of the actors I am not too familiar with either. You see a lot of like Game of Thrones actors because a lot of the cast of that show is British. So you definitely see a lot of them, especially in the early episodes, and even some of the newer Netflix ones. But in the first Netflix episode, for instance, there's a lot of like well-known, or at least a few well-known like American actors. The budget is definitely a lot higher in the Netflix one too. Although I think the budget is pretty good for the show at the same time. Like it never feels cheap. Or anything like that. Like, and there's even one episode on the Netflix series that's like an hour and 30 minutes, and it's movie length, and it feels like a movie. Like the production values are there, and I think the show looks great when at times as well. There's a lot of cool visual tricks and things like that, and visual style that you'll see. And as far as the lengths of the episode, it varies. Some episodes are 45 minutes, some are around an hour, and then, like I said before, there was like the hour and 35-minute episode that I was talking about. But this Charlie Brooker guy is an immense talent, and this show makes me want to like go and check out everything this guy has done, because I'm just completely blown away by this show. And it's one of those shows that I've finished watching every episode a few days ago now, and I can't stop thinking about it. I can't get certain episodes out of my head. I can't stop thinking about some of the themes and bleak futures that this show presents. It's scary in a way, and there's even some like horror tinged episodes that I thought were really well done. But let's talk about like some of the ideas and some of the episodes. I'll talk about some of my favorites because I'm sure some of you guys have seen this episode. Or I've seen this TV series, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this video is to just have a discussion with people about this show, because I just fucking love this show so much. And it'll be interesting to see people's favorite and least favorite episodes. One of my favorites, the first episode of the series is actually, I think, a good one to start with. It's called The National Anthem. And the basic story to this is that the Prime Minister of the UK receives this video in the morning of... I forget, like, the daughter of like Princess Susanna, I think, and she's basically been kidnapped, and the captor basically has her talk in this video saying that she's going to be executed by 5 p.m. unless the British Prime Minister has sex with a pig. And yeah, it's like this absurd story using current technology, yet they play it straight. They play this episode completely straight, and it's kind of amazing. You really get into this guy's viewpoint, the main guy who plays the Prime Minister, and he's just completely tormented over this, and he's just angry and depressed, and the guy's performance is absolutely amazing. And this episode goes to some very interesting places. And I think it's a really fucked up episode to start with the series, and you kind of get an idea for it. But then the next episode of this first season is actually in my top 3, and it's called 15 Million Merits. And this takes place in the far future, where people are basically kind of running like these almost like bike machines to kind of power like things in the world. and you have like these TV screens you're watching, and all of them are trying to like basically make running on these machines fun, and you're gaining these merit points as you're doing this. There's all like these different ideas from there. There's like this American Idol type TV show that can let you escape like the work life if you basically grind up 15 million merits and then buy what they call a golden ticket, and then you can kind of try out for this show. And it goes from there into all these really dark, interesting places that I don't really want to spoil. But it's one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. I thought it was really creative, and I just loved the bleak future that they've got set up in that. Moving on, another episode that's one of my favorites is called White Bear, and this one I don't want to say too much on, but basically this woman kind of wakes up in this chair, and it looks like she had been tied to this chair, and she gets up and she finds like the world, basically there's these people using their cell phones filming her, and they're running around filming her, and they're not speaking to her when she tries to talk to them, and they kind of keep their distance, and then you have like these white symbols that are all on the TV screens. And then eventually you find this character with like this hat on with that same white symbol and with a shotgun, and this character starts hunting her, and she has to like run away from this guy. And eventually she meets up with another character, and she kind of explains the backstory of the world. And then the episode just basically has her trying to escape from this hellish scenario. And this episode, again, I don't want to spoil things, but the ending of this episode is fucking insane. That's all I want to say, but it's one of the most fucked up episodes of the series, and I absolutely loved it. And then moving on to the new season, which has my favorite episode of the entire series probably, and this episode is very different from a lot of the episodes too. A lot of these episodes are very bleak and have really depressing endings to them. But this episode is called San Junipero, and I don't know if I want to spoil too much about this episode, but it takes place in the 80s in the beginning, and that's already different because the technology thing. And in the beginning, it's kind of like this romantic relationship. It focuses on this like lesbian relationship, and that's all I want to say. Unfortunately, I can't say any more than that. But this episode has so many interesting themes to it, and there's like this nostalgia. This powerful nostalgia that I have towards this episode, even though I didn't grow up in the 80s. And this is kind of this weird thing for me, where when I watch 80s movies and I hear 80s music, I get nostalgic, even though I've never grown up in that period. It's this bizarre sensation, and the nostalgia combined with a lot of the emotional themes of that episode really affected me in a way that I wasn't expecting. And this is the episode that I keep thinking about. And it's actually what kind of compelled me to make this video, because it's had this impact on me that is bizarre, because it's got its bleak and depressing moments, but it's also kind of a heartwarming episode as well. But it's just I can't get it out of my head. It's incredible, and it's an episode that I want to see many times over. And it's probably one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen. It's certainly the one that stuck with me the longest. It's even like I almost feel like the show has made me even have like dreams, because I've had like really vivid dreams ever since watching this show, and I have to wonder if it's like correlated with this show. But yeah, there's a bunch of also other episodes with some interesting concepts too that I don't want to spoil. But the show's not a huge time commitment either. Even though there's 3 seasons out, there's just not that many episodes. And I want more. Like I just want more. I binged watched this show, and I want more. It's almost like I'm having like a withdrawal. Like that's how obsessed I am with the show. But yeah, I hope this video maybe encouraged some people to check out the show. I really think it's one of the best things on TV right now. And I think sci-fi in general is really strong on TV right now. I'm also currently watching Westworld on HBO, and that's another incredible show. Unfortunately, harder to access that one since I know a lot of people don't have HBO, but you can find ways to watch it. And then we have something like Rick and Morty, which a lot of people, when they think of Rick and Morty, they think a comedy cartoon. But I actually think that episode or that show is a good sci-fi show. Like I think it actually has some really interesting, unique sci-fi concepts that have that kind of blend with the humorous tone of that show in surprising ways. So I'm excited for Rick and Morty to come back. I really like that show as well. But yeah, Black Mirror. If it sounds up your alley, I at least recommend giving it a shot. Because it's an anthology series, it's also very much inspired by The Twilight Zone. But you can basically start at any episode you want. But I do think the first episode, the national anthem episode from season 1, is a good place to start. And the second episode is so different from it that they provide a nice contrast with each other, I think. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.